ඕනේ නැහැ.
නෑ. හරි. මේ පෝස්ටර් එකේ මොකක් හරි කෑල්ලක් කැපිලා තියෙනවද නෑනේ?
නෑ. ඔක්කොම පේනවා.
Hari. Okay, enang mang camera off karna 7 o'clock I will start and then I will introduce Shan and then we'll get it.
Live.
Hari. मैं पोस्टर के हर कैला कैपिटल की पता नहीं
No.
but shit I heard myself twice.
Yeah, yes.
Hari. Okay, Shan I can hear myself.
Oh, that's
and then I will introduce Shan and then we'll get it.
मैं YouTube वीडियो का प्ले करना
Shan एक है ना
Give me a second. Let me turn it off. Okay. Should be fine now.
Hari. Okay.
Yeah.
Going off. Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hey, good luck.
Thank you.
Shan, open the meeting room. Right. Guys, can you all hear me? Can someone give me some feedback? Tushar, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Right. Okay. So, guys, it's 7 o'clock here in Sri Lanka. So, we'll start the session. First of all, good evening and welcome everybody. And for those of y'all who don't know me, I'm Prashant. So, we have a majority of students here who are already in the program, but we have a few new students. So just to give you all an introduction, right? Medicine 101, we started in 2020, right? And we've been having lecture sessions, lecture modules for students, right? Broken down into, the chapters like endocrinology, gastroenterology, sort of. And what we do is, apart from just the teaching modules, we have bonus sessions, right? So if the students who have come for our sessions before, you all know, we had one of our first bonus sessions with Dr. Milan Jaisinghe. We talked about his experience with the local exams and how he got through. And then we had another session with Sunesh Rodrigo, where he talked about the development of modern medicine and how we have to, as doctors, adapt to that environment, with the growing economies and everything, right? And we always take feedback from our students, right? And one of the feedbacks we got was that the bonus sessions are excellent, but we also need to know more about our other options in the medical field, as in what other exams we can do apart from the exams back in our home countries, right? So with that in mind, we thought to bring about to you all this new series of sessions, right? Called All You Need to Know About Licensing Examinations. So the first session is today, and we are going to talk about USMLE, right? So our guest for today, right? For most of you all, he's not a guest. You all already know him, right? Shan Hemachandra. He's one of the co-founders of Medicine 101, and he's a final year medical student. And he's also the president. So students from Nanjing Medical University, you should know, he's the president of NMU International Students Association, right? He's one of the very few students to get a national and provincial level winners certificate from the software creation competition held back in 2018, right? And he is also one of the only students to get to receive the Jasmine Jiangsu government full scholarship for 4 times consecutively, right? So with all his academic aspects, he has managed to also complete the USMLE Step 1 exam in his 5th year, or in his final medical year, right? So because of that, we thought of inviting Shan, and Shan is here to give you all a good rundown of what USMLE is, how to get prepared, right? Everything. So without any further delay, let me, Shan, the stage is yours. Guys, just remember, try to keep your cameras on, just interact with Shan as much as possible. And towards the end of the session, we will have a 5 to 10 minute Q&A session where you can interact with Shan directly and ask anything to clear your doubts. Okay, right. All right, Shan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Prashant, for that introduction. So as Prashant introduced, I'm Shan, and I wrote USMLE 2 weeks ago, actually the Thursday before last, okay? And it was an experience. Honestly, it was a 7-hour exam. There was 1 hour of break, so a total of 8 hours. And I will talk about everything, my feelings, and what I felt that a medical student should do if you plan to do USMLE, and why I did it. All of these I will go into detail. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask it at the end of the session. I will not keep you guys longer than 45 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Now I'm going to share my screen now. So I hope you guys can see this. Wait, okay. So USMLE Step 1. Let's begin with why I did this exam. Okay. USMLE is the only exam that you can do as a medical student. When it comes to PLAB, AMC, any other exam that you wish to do, all of these, even ERPM, you need to be graduated. You need to have your degree with you. USMLE, Step 1 and Step 2 can be done before graduation. Okay. Let me talk about how I will talk a bit about how to apply the costs, the amounts I spent, and the resources I use. So let's get into this first. So first of all, the estimated costs for USMLE. Okay, so there's a lot. Honestly, it's the most expensive licensing exam you can do. It will cost you a minimum of $12,000 up to a maximum of $21,000. So what I did was I searched a lot of forums and checked how much the total cost for our different students were, and it came to around 12,000 to 21,000. Okay, so first of all, you need to start off with something called the ECFMG registration. Okay, that's the first step, and you can do it even right now. If you are in the second year, third year, fourth year, just do it. Okay, if you plan to do USMLE, do this first. It will take you around 2 to 3 weeks to be registered. So what they do is you pay them $150. They contact your university to see if you are a student there, and then they confirm if you are who you are, say you are. So they will call you. There's a notary process where they call you and ask you to show your passport like this, stay like this, and they will take a picture of you. Okay, they need to confirm that you are who you are. So, okay. Then after that, when you are going to do step 1, you will have to pay a total of $1,155. This is for Sri Lanka. So it's $975 for the exam plus an international delivery fee. So if you are not in the USA, you will have to pay around $150 extra. Okay. And there are some other costs. Okay, for USMLE, just for USMLE, step 1, that's the cost. Okay, you can edit and see. But then there are resources that you will need. Okay, so there's different resources like, okay, boards and beyond, Pathoma, there's a lot of first aid, all of those resources. You need to pay for those. I will come to those. But I need to highlight one resource, okay, 2 resources that you definitely need to buy. Okay, I cannot highlight how important this is because when I wrote step 1, almost every question, the one thing that came to my mind was, this is really similar to UWorld. Okay, the questions, the way it's asked, it's very similar to UWorld. And it costs around $269 for 1 month. Okay, I will come to all of these. And then there's another thing called NBMEs, National Board Medical something. Okay, and it's $60 per NBME. Okay, now the problem is UWorld has a self-assessment, but it tends to overestimate your score. So let's say UWorld is going to tell you you're going to get at least 260 plus, but then the moment you do an NBME, you will get, let's say, 240. You need to trust this more. Okay, and NBMEs, okay, I will come to that. Okay, so that's step 1. So there's the resources. These 3 are resources. This is the registration fee for ECFMG, and this is the lifetime registration. You don't need to pay this ever again. Step 1. It's a fee for the exam. Okay, so when it comes to USMLE, if you are an international student, there's 3 things you need to do before you can go to the USA as a resident. Before you apply as a resident and get a residency, there's 3 things you need to do. You need to finish step 1. You need to do step 2. And since they removed the CK, USMLE step 2, this is the CK exam you need to do. There was something called the clinical skills exam. So they removed that. Instead of that, there is an exam called the occupational English test. Okay, you can do it in your country. It costs you around $500 and it's specifically made for doctors and nurses. Okay, so 3 things: step 1, step 2, and OET. Then you can apply for the residency. Okay, I will come to these. Like I'll go in more detail for those. So step 2 CK, it will cost you $1,175. UWorld for step 2, $369. It became more expensive. Okay, it became $100 more expensive. Then after you are done with all of these, when you are applying for different programs for residencies, I'll go into detail. You need to pay this ECFMG certification. It basically tells that you have completed step 1, you have completed step 2, you have completed the OET, and you are ready for residencies. Okay, that's what it is. Then there's something called electives. It is basically, so after you finish step 1, you are able to apply for visa through ECFMG or through a hospital in the USA to go work for 1 month. Okay, and it depends on you. If you are savvy enough, you can find electives for free. If not, you will have to pay different amounts. It can go from $0 all the way to $5,000. So that's a hands-on experience. And the reason this is important is because this is used to build your CV. Okay, I will come to this. And then once you get certified, okay, you need to get something called the ERAS token. These are different things which lets you apply for residencies, to get interviews and all of these. Okay, you need to send your USMLE transcript to different to the programs you apply, the hospitals you apply, all of those, and the program application fee, the residency application fee, it's going to cost, for the first 10, it's going to cost $99. For the next 10, $16 per. For the next 10, $19, and $26 for the next 10. So a typical student would apply for around 100 programs. Okay, that's going to be one, actually the biggest cost for you. Okay, application for this. Then you need the visa. Okay, that's the J1 visa, that's the work visa. It's going to cost you somewhere between $500 to $1,000, and the total cost will come somewhere between $12,000 to $21,000. Okay, there's a lot of videos on this, so you guys can check YouTube. This is just a brief intro for the costs. Now, let's take a look at the non-negotiable costs. Okay, if you are planning to do USMLE, you need to do, you obviously have to pay for these two. Okay, these two you obviously have to pay. But then when you are in the process, when you are studying for the exam, when you are close to doing the exam, you will have this doubt. Should I do an NBME? Okay, it's basically a trial run of the exam. It's going to tell you where you are. The number one reason students fail USMLE is because they don't do any NBMEs. They don't know how good their knowledge is. They don't know where they're at. And this is the number one reason the student would fail USMLE. Okay. Then UWorld, you need to buy this for at least 1 to 3 months. I'll come to that. I have a section for that. So the ECFMG registration, the first application, it's going to take you around 2 weeks. You can do this months to years prior. Okay. You will be given this ECFMG identification number. That's basically your, you will be using that number throughout your entire journey. Okay. 150, it includes the notary process, and I talked about this. Okay. Application for USMLE step 1. So this part, let's say you want to take it before September, the first week of September, you want to take it. Just remember this. It's going to take you a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks for this. Okay. So you need to apply for this, for the step 1. You need to pay the $1,155 early on. Okay. So next, here's the ECFMG website. I have put QR codes. You guys can, I will send you this. You guys can, I'll send this as a PPT. You guys can go through this. And this is the ECFMG website. Over here, you get the ECFMG number. You log in, and they will have everything, literally applications, and then your score reporting, everything comes there. Okay. And then once you are done with registration and you are ready to sit for the exam, okay, this is one of the first things you need to do. You need to find where the exam centers are in your country. Okay. You need to find where the exam centers for USMLE is in your country, the closest one. So you go to this website, and honestly, it was one of the most difficult websites to find, like manual. So I just put the exact link you need in this QR code. And you guys can find a test center, and when you're ready for the exam, you just book it at least 2 weeks before the exam. Okay. You book it around 2 weeks to a month before the exam, you can book your seat. And usually I asked them how many students do USMLE in Sri Lanka, how many students come there. They were like 2 to 3 would come every few months. Okay. Here's the location in Sri Lanka. It's Open Arc campus, which is very close to Open University of Sri Lanka. It's in Nugegoda. It is not Open University of Sri Lanka. And my advice, if you are doing USMLE, just go there, check out the exam center and come beforehand, at least a month before, so that you won't be lost that day. Like, I actually thought it was Open University of Sri Lanka. And if I didn't go early on, I would have basically, it would have messed up with my mind because I went to a wrong location. They said they don't know anything. They wasted around 30 minutes. So it's best to go early, okay, and check out the place. Next, the occupational English test. So here's the website. I gave you guys the website. You need this to apply for residency. It basically, see, since there's no step 2 CS, the only way they can make sure your English knowledge is good, that you can talk as a doctor. Let me give you guys an example for a question. So I have this. One of the questions, like this, different parts, you need to write a referral letter. Okay. You need to, I'll take a different one. You need to be able to write a discharge letter. You need to be able to request urgent assessments. These are just some questions. Okay. So this is just an English test. That's gonna check your proficiency in medical in terms of speaking, reading, writing, and speaking, reading, writing, and listening. Okay. So there's the speaking test. Yeah, those 4. I will send you, if anyone is interested, you can send me a message. I will send you guys the stuff I have. The resources I used, is there? Yeah. Okay. Now, this is one of the most important things you guys need to know. First of all, don't use too many resources. Okay. This is actually the golden rule. Okay. And the second one, use the resources properly. If you check your first aid book, okay, if you check your first aid book, there's a page that shows this. I'll make this bigger. There's this high efficacy, moderate efficacy, low efficacy. See, what most medical students do is they reread, they highlight, they make summaries. These are considered low efficacies. These are research based on the way students take this exam. Okay, in terms of any medical exam, this becomes applicable. Okay, the highest efficacy, the ones I can say work the best from my experience, are the UWorld question bank, NBME self-assessments, and Anki. Okay, Anki, it's a flashcard app. I'll come to that. So let's go to the resources. So if you are a medical student, regardless of which university, which country, which plan you have, honestly, this is the only book you would need as a medical student till at least the 5th year, like till you start management subjects like internal medicine. This book has literally everything you need. Ethics, then let's take okay, so as a medical student, one of the things I always advise a student to do is get the book early. This is the main book you need. So Kaplan is used everywhere, but then this is the book that every US medical student uses to study for step 1, because it has literally everything that they will ask. Okay. And also I use this thing called Boards and Beyond. So another alternative is Kaplan. Okay. I'll come to that. Boards and Beyond is used. It's actually one of the best resources that I found, because the way they clinically correlate it. Okay. And if you are this is similar to Kaplan, the videos and stuff. It's very similar to Kaplan, but then this was better than Kaplan for me. Okay, and if you are sitting the exam, I would suggest you go through this FAQ because he explains things about the questions asked in the exam. Okay, and then you will step on. This is a non-negotiable cost. Okay, the question bank for 30 days, it's $269. For 90 days plus a self-assessment form, it's $369. This is what I would advise a student to buy. Okay. If you want to buy the self-assessment forms separately, it's going to cost you $40. It's better to buy NBMEs for that. Give me a second, guys. Next, we have this thing called Form 120. You just Google it, you can find it. Form 120 USMLE, you can find it. Do this around 4 days before the exam. It's going to tell you where you are at. Okay. It's a free thing. You guys can do it for free. It's a 3-hour block. You guys can just assess where you are at. And then NBMEs. I cannot highlight how important these are. It costs around $60 per, and I know you can get pirated versions. You can get the PDFs from somewhere, but the thing is, they have a complete. They have a, what do you say? They know the equation that is used by USMLE markers to predict your score. The best predictor of your final USMLE score. Okay. And honestly, okay, let me tell you how to use this. So let's say you are studying for the exam. Okay. Then you feel you're ready, but you still didn't put the date for the exam. Okay. So now you are done studying. Do an NBME first. Okay. Then book your exam. Okay, because if your NBME marks are low, that means you're going to have to take more time, study before you book your exam. Okay, before you pay the $1,000. Let me put it here. Before you pay the $1,000, do an NBME and then check where you are at. And then during that last month, do another NBME. So do a minimum of 2 NBMEs. Okay. Okay, so this would be my suggested process. Then I found this. This is actually a pearl I found. Okay, it's called Dirty Medicine. It's a YouTube channel, and I learned the ethics, hospital care, payment options. These are, and some loyal topics like these. Neurofibromatosis type 1. You need to know the presentation, like the cafe aloe spots, optic gliomas, leash nodules. He talks about the high yield stuff, the low yield stuff, and it's a good thing to listen to while driving. Okay, especially these ethics stuff. Okay, so in the USA, it's not free. There's an insurance-based system. So you need to learn about the insurance, and you need to know how to talk to a patient. Okay, that's actually in the interview process. It is considered one of the most important things. The way you present yourself with patients, the way you present yourself with the doctor. So you need to be well thorough. Okay. This I would honestly recommend this. Then Pathoma. This is a must. The Pathoma videos, it's a must for literally any medical student, okay, who's studying pathology. And also for USMLE, he highlights every single high yield point. Okay. And okay, unless you are a medical student who's studying in India, okay, unless you are a medical student who's studying in India, I have to tell you, do microbiology and pharmacology using sketch medicine. It's honestly like I don't know if you have used this. This is about Staph aureus. So they use these images and basically they explain about the bacteria in such a way that they put this image into your head. Okay, you're not going to forget this image. So during the exam, honestly, this is how it was. During the exam, I would see the case and I would hear the word catalase positive. I would hear the word gram positive. I would hear the word sorbitol. Okay, tall man. Okay, sorry, mannitol. Tall man, they correlated to mannitol. Okay, they would say mannitol positive. So in my head, I get this image. I know exactly the organism they're talking about. And there's a lot of organisms. I think there's around 32 bacteria, 20 plus viruses, 15 plus parasites, all fungi, all of those. You need to know a lot of them. So this is definitely the best resource for sketch medicine. And the reason I said, if you are from India, I have talked to a lot of Indian students, and microbiology is one of the easiest things for them. I don't know why. Okay. Then pharmacology. So one of the most common questions they ask is, which drug would not cause hypoglycemia? Which drug for diabetes mellitus would not cause hypoglycemia? So these drugs, if you watch these, you will know these drugs will cause hypoglycemia because they cause an increase in insulin release. Okay, but then these drugs, this sitagliptin, all of these exenatides, these cause a glucose-induced insulin release, so they do not cause hypoglycemia. It's a very common question they ask, and all of these they highlighted really well in sketchy medicine in a way that you will not forget. Okay. Kaplan Medical. I use this for biochemistry. Okay. So Kaplan Medical. This actually I used Kaplan Medical for biochemistry only. Everything else I used Boards and Beyond. Okay. So Kaplan Medical. I didn't put anything about it. Their question bank is good. But then there's no replacing New World. Okay, if you guys can buy it early, I know it's a cost. You need to be exposed to the questions. Now, this thing, I need to highlight this. If you have university exams, if you have other commitments, do not schedule your exam. Okay, this is not like any other exam you have faced. Okay, this is not, honestly, this was one of obviously the craziest exam that I ever sat. Okay, and during your preparation, when you're doing different blocks, aim for at least 35 to 40 per block. Below 30 equals a fail. Okay. So when I say per block, I'm talking about your world. So till you are above this, at least 33 to 40, don't try to apply. The topic, the quote I put for the session was, it's a marathon, not a race. Do not take it as a race. It will only end badly. Okay. You might pass, but you can never sit the exam again. Actually, there's a 80+% pass rate. Okay. But then if you get less than 230 as an IMG, it's not going to be impossible. It's going to be difficult. Okay. You will be restricted in your choices for residency. A lot of restrictions come. Okay. And US students gets 8 weeks of study leave for the exam. Okay. And that's for the US students. And this is partly my experience. During the last month, I was spending at least 10 to 12 hours of study. And before that, what I did was, I did my best to understand the UL questions. Okay, like that's all I did. I wasn't bothered much with the theory. Theory is not the most important thing. It's the UL questions, understanding the pathophysiology, because these are not direct questions. Like they're not going to ask you what drug do you give. Okay, from these drugs, which is given for treatment of diabetes, they will never ask a question like this. They will give you a patient, they will give you a scenario, a presentation, and they will ask you what is the best drug, or how does the drug act on the patient. They're never going to ask you a direct question like that. Okay. So, okay. Now, this is basically my time slot. Okay. Morning to around 4 p.m. I would do UL questions. It took me around 2 hours per block. When I say a block, that's 40 questions. Okay. And in the evening, I would do more questions, but I would also spend time watching these videos, solidifying any concepts, any basics that I had, all of these. And let me tell you one more thing that I found, which was very useful for me. So what I would do is, I would do around 15 to 20 questions. Then go through the explanations. And if there are any wrong questions, that's when I took the UL book. Okay, so what I mean by this is, I would do around 15 to 20 questions of UL, because that was my main resource. So while I was studying, first aid was my main resource. But when I'm preparing for the exam, it's UL. Okay, so I would do 15 to 20 questions. I would go through the explanations, and if there's any wrong questions, in the sense that I would go wrong, I would refer first aid, and I would make sure that I know that topic before I do the next 20 questions. Okay. So let's say heart failure. You get 2 questions of heart failure wrong. I know that my knowledge is not enough. I need to refer first aid. That's basically what I'm saying. Yeah, and also these are time slots. Okay, not hours dedicated only for studies. Okay, during the last month, it was hours dedicated for studies. But then before that, 2 to 3 months before, consider these time slots. After 4 p.m., I won't touch UL questions. Be like that. Have your own mentality. Okay, and you can use an app like Forest to keep track of the study progress. Take breaks. You need to relax. Okay, and this thing I found it to be very useful. Don't try to memorize the concepts. Like there's a lot of memorizing stuff. Okay, there's a lot of memorizing stuff. Don't try to do those until the last few weeks, because you're going to forget it. Okay, especially let's say biochemistry reactions, the enzymes and stuff. Don't focus on memorizing those like months before the exam. You will definitely forget it. Okay, and you will spend a lot of time wasting on that. Okay. Next, the types of. Okay, I will come to this. So I wrote my exam on a Thursday. These were my thoughts during the exam. Okay. Before the exam, have a sleep schedule that is consistent. Okay. So like the last few days to weeks before the exam, I would study till 4 a.m. and I would wake at 8 a.m. So 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. 4 hours. Okay, that's 4 hours of sleep. And what my plan was, the day before the exam, I would sleep at around 10:30 p.m. and wake up around 5:30 a.m. Okay, but then my body was used to the 4-hour cycle. What happened was, the day of the exam, I slept at 11:30 p.m. and I woke at 3:30 a.m. Honestly, like I was it felt really bad. I knew I needed more sleep, but then I knew if I went to sleep again, I would be really tired. Okay, so I had to go with that 4 hours of sleep. I couldn't control my sleep-wake cycle. It's a circadian cycle which works on its own. Okay, depending on the way you treat it. And then prepare your meals in advance. So honestly, first I thought I would take something like coffee, a lot of coffee. That's what I thought. A lot of coffee, a lot of sugary stuff, and go. So this part, I sent my mom, get me these. And then I checked out a video from, what's his name? Dirty Medicine. Yeah, Dirty Medicine. He talked about what you should take for the exam and all of this. He said, don't take sugar, don't take coffee. The main reason, you are going to crash. You know how sugar goes up and then there's a sudden drop? That is going to happen. Okay. So his advice was, don't take sugar, don't take coffee. You can have a coffee in the morning, but then have something like oatmeal. Okay. And I ate it with these eggs. And during the exam, what I did was I had water bottles. Okay, I had like 2 water bottles, and between each 40 block, I would come out, drink some water, and go back in. And then for lunch, this is what I had. It was basically mayonnaise, chicken, and egg. Okay, and I kept a Red Bull with me. So this, I reached the exam hall at around 8:30 a.m. Go early. There's a long security process. Okay? And honestly, I was tired. It's fatigue is real. Like during the exam, it's 7 hours of exam, 1 hour per block, and you get 1 hour of break. So the way it works is you can do a block. Let's say you do it in 40 minutes. You have 20 minutes remaining. That time is added to your break time. Okay. So you guys can take a 20-minute break or even 45 minutes. It depends on your 1 hour break. Okay. You guys can keep adding time or keep using this time. So what I did was, I took breaks after. Okay, I didn't take between this block, but then it's best to take breaks after each block. Hydrate yourself, use the washroom, eat a protein bar if you can, and you will be tired. That is to be expected. After the second or third, you will be tired. I did block 1. It took me the entire hour. Then I took a break and I ate this Ravello sugar-free dark chocolate and went back in after like 5 minutes. Did the same after step 2, block 2. Block 3 and 4, I did it together, but then I found out my concentration for block 4 was not the best. Okay. After that, after block 4, I took a 15-minute break. Okay. So took breaks after each block. Just before the last block, I drank a Red Bull because I was tired. Okay. But then what happened was it just gave me an energy burst for around 10 questions. Like I had the energy, had like the concentration for 10 questions, but then after that it went away. Okay. Honestly, after the 7 hours of exam, it started at 9 a.m. I finished at around 4:30 a.m. All I felt was honestly relief because I was preparing for the exam for almost one year plus, and it was finally over. Okay. And but then the worst part of it was the next few days, the questions I did, the ones which I had doubts, it would start coming to my mind again. Okay. That is like the next few days are going to be really tough. You're going to question yourself, did I do well? But remember, there's an 80% pass rate. Okay. Just make sure you get over 230. Okay, that's my experience basically. But if I will talk about what happens if you fail step 1. So let me talk about USMLE step 1 questions. If you guys check the Medicine 101 page, like some questions I would post, I use different question banks, but all of them, they have a similar type. They give you a clinical scenario. Okay. Even club, all of these question banks, they have a very similar type, and they only question you on the classical presentation. They are not going to question you on the rare presentations, like let's say, okay, an example doesn't come to my mind. They will only ask you the classical presentation. Don't worry about, will they ask something I saw in a movie like House, in a TV show like House. They won't ask you anything other than the classical presentation. You need to know that. Also, some questions are not counted towards your score. Okay, like go through this Dr. An's FAQ, he explains that. So there's around 280 questions you need to do in 7 hours. Let's say 20 questions are not going to be counted towards your score. Okay, those are like filler questions. They are just assessing to see if it can be potential questions in the future. Okay, so that's the type of questions. Let me talk about what happens if you fail step 1. Is the journey over for you, or can you do it again? And is it better to pass your score or fail? Now look at this graph. So the probability of matching to a preferred specialty by step 1 attempts for a non-US IMG, for both after 6 attempts, you basically have almost 0% chance. But if you fail it once, you still have a good chance of getting into a program. Okay. Let me also show you this. So there are certain programs. Let's take anesthesiology, for example. If you have a low score, or if you fail step 1, it is, if that's your dream, you guys like you will have to change your dream. Okay, dermatology, they will never consider applicants almost 50% who fail step 1 or get a low score. Okay, family medicine is considered one of the easiest for a IMG. So okay, now I will just talk a few minutes about why I chose to do step 1, what my options are, and my future prospects. So the reason I wanted to do USMLE step 1 is because that's literally the only licensing exam you can do before you graduate. Okay, USMLE is the only exam you can do before you graduate, and literally I'm doing nothing at home. The second reason is I wanted the fluidity. I needed my freedom to be able to choose different countries. Okay, like I'm not saying I'm gonna definitely go to the US, but doing USMLE gives me a lot of choices. Dubai, New Zealand, a lot of choices. Like, okay, I do step 1, step 2, and then I just have to sit for those their country, like one step of those their exams. Or if I do my residency in the US, it's very easy to go work in those countries. I want to travel a lot. Okay, so that is actually the main reason. Like I wanted the fluidity. I needed to be able to travel around, go to different countries, work, and all of those. Okay, that is the main reason I did USMLE step 1. And if you are a junior, if you are in your first, second year, the one advice I can tell you guys is, especially if you're in your first year, take the time to research these different stuff, different exams. Are you going to do your country's exam alone? Are you going to try a foreign country exam? If you are, by the second year, you need to be focused entirely on that. Okay, you need to put your focus on that, because all of these questions will question you from the basics. Okay, they're not going to ask you the stuff alone. They're going to ask you physiology. Like even ERPM, I went through questions. Okay, like we are teaching, so obviously we need the resources. We need to know what to teach. I went through the resources, and at least 40% of it is going to be from the basics. That's where most students fail. Okay, that's where most students mess up because their basics aren't good. So have razor sharp focus starting from your second year. Okay, so that's what I can advise you guys. If you are starting off, let me show you guys something else. Those of you who joined, you guys, if you have joined our GI module or any module, I will give you guys access to these questions. Okay, I'm building it. So I will give you guys access. You guys can do it at your own time. Wait, sorry. That's about it. If you guys have any questions, you guys can ask me. So I'm gonna stop sharing. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead. Okay, so I have one question. Is it too late if I'm already in fourth year? No. I decided in my fourth year, like the beginning of fourth year, I'm gonna do USMLE. Okay. So it's not too late. It's just try to focus on questions, and then when you feel like you are ready, then go for it. Okay. And also one more thing. One of the biggest concerns is, will I ever get a job? Okay. And statistically, in terms of numbers, USMLE has a better chance of you getting a job than the other exams. Okay. It's just you need to work on your CV. You need to try to do research, but then after you do step 1, step 2, if you can apply for the visa to the USA, and you can find a lot of opportunities. Okay, any questions? So okay, do I have to have a family in the US to sponsor me? So I was going through this process. ECFMG actually helps students to apply for visa. Okay, but then you need to first contact the hospital. If you don't have any family, you can contact ECFMG. Okay, they will guide you through the process. You can contact a hospital, a doctor in the USA, try to network a bit, and you can ask them to help, like sponsor you. Okay, wait, I have another question. Can you expand on the ECFMG process? Which teachers should be approached to help us with the process? Okay, so if you are from my university, NMU, what I can tell you is, until you start the 5th year first semester, until you finish subjects like reproductive medicine, GenOps, psychiatry, the university won't allow you. Okay, but the best time, the perfect time would be around April. So you finish 5.1, 2 months later would be the perfect time for you to do USMLE, because you just learned the required stuff for 5.1. No, you do not have to do IELTS, because OET is basically the same. Like OE. What about research requirements for USMLE? I've heard the research is much more important for USMLE than PLAB. Okay, so PLAB, it is true. Like having research is going to boost your CV. Okay, but then let me share the screen again. Go through this link. It tells you exactly what you need to get into a match. So there's a lot of opportunity. Actually, in the USA, there's a lot of opportunities. In terms of research, you can apply for research after you do step 1, you will be able to apply for visa. It will be easy. and then you go to the USA and you can go for research. Like you can find research centers and you can do research there. So my plan is after I graduate, actually, like end of, I will try to do research after I graduate. So I will spend around 6 months for that after I graduate. Okay. Wait. Okay. Okay. The question is, how long will it take from step 1 to step 3? Also, this part, considering I pass everything in the first try, it's highly likely that you will pass. The problem is getting a good score. Okay. If you don't get over 230, you will be spending a lot of money for applying for programs than someone else, because above 230, you are almost guaranteed an interview. Okay, about 230 to 40, you are almost guaranteed an interview. Okay, in any program you apply, you will at least get an interview. So how long will it take? So this is my mentality. In my 4th year, from 4th year, I started preparing. By the time I'm done with 5th year, I have finished step 1. And during my internship year, I will need that knowledge for step 2. I will focus on studying for step 2. And the moment I'm done with internship, I will sit for step 2. Okay. And then I have graduated, I have step 2. I will apply to the USA, take any clerkships, any internships I can, research opportunities I can. And then by the time of around September, I will apply for residency. And then 3 years later, step 3, you can do it after your residency. There's no hurry for that. Okay. You don't need to do step 1, 2, 3, and then apply. It's step 3, after you start working, you work. Yeah, the reason, okay, the next question, they're going to make USMLE step 1 a pass-fail exam. Reason is, let me, okay, give me a second, guys. Let me show you guys something. I'm sorry, I can't find it, but let me tell you guys this, that question. The emphasis, like most programs cut you off right now based on your step 1 score. Step 1 is more important than step 2 for a program director. Okay. So they're trying to change that. They're trying to give more emphasis on step 2 than step 1. That's the reason they're going to make it a pass-fail exam. For an IMG, it's going to be a bit more difficult, but it's not going to be impossible. Like, it's not impossible. The thing is, the mindset is it's impossible. But honestly, from what I can see, it's easier than planned in terms of getting a residency. It's just a bit more expensive, but my reasoning for that is you will be able to earn that amount in a few months. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, there's a question. Is it better to fail than pass with a low score? What happens then is, if you fail, like when you apply for residencies, let's say for anesthesiology, they will by default filter out the applications. This, through the system, they can filter out all the applicants who have failed. They will not even look at those. Okay. So that's going to happen if you fail. But if you pass with a low score, you will also be filtered out. Okay. But then around 50, let's say 50% pass fail in step 1. Okay, give me a second. let's say the more forgiving stuff like family medicine, psychiatry, all of those, internal medicine, they will not cut you off because you failed. They would rather cut you off because you have a low score. So if you failed and got a really high score, you have an advantage. But you will have to explain why you had a low score during the interview process. Okay, and telling them I was okay. Just don't tell them I was sick, my university didn't teach me enough, I wasn't ready. Give them a proper response. You can tell, I didn't realize what was important, how to approach this, something like that. Pass, fail in step 1. So starting next year, they will make step 1 into a pass or fail score. They're not going to give you a numerical score. And honestly, considering the stress that goes into step 1, I would say this is a better thing for a student. Okay, because you will anyways get a chance. Okay, like when I say you will anyways get a chance, as long as you do well in your CV, you do well in your personal letter, you need to write a letter. Okay, you will have a good chance. Are there any country-wise preferences? Like, do they favor persons from Western countries compared to South Asian countries? Actually, no. There's nothing like that. Okay. If you are an IMG, you are considered an IMG. They're not going to filter you out based on your country. Okay, because students apply in one country, do it in another country. So this is. I also went through a lot of articles. And I saw this question and it was a no. Okay. Any other question? See, one thing that's important is your basics. You need to know how to apply your knowledge. They're not going to ask you any direct theory questions. It's not going to be like university exams. You need to know how to apply your knowledge. And if you can't do that, you can't get through any licensing exam. Okay. USMLE, PLAB, whatever it is, the Indian exams, ERPM, they all focus on your ability to read a case, understand what's wrong, and tell what's wrong. That's for step 1. Okay, you tell what's wrong. For step 2, you talk about the management. How do you manage that patient? That's going to be the questions. So, any questions? Any other questions? Yeah, if not, let me just tell this. For those who joined the GI module onwards, you guys, sorry. Okay, I got a question. Did you go through? Oh, wait. I studied for AMC 1. Do you think it's enough for USMLE step 1 as well? I actually have no idea. The best thing to do would be you can try out form 120. Okay, or whoever who asked this question, just send me a message. I will send you some random questions from random topics. If you are good with that, then you can. It will be very similar. Did you go through the books for each subject? Okay, so wait, give me a second. The first rule is don't use too many resources, but then when you use the resources, there's 2 parts: the basic general principles and the organ systems. For general principles, obviously you need to go through this, the first aid for literally everything. Okay. Okay, so there's a question. After completing step 1 and 2, we can do step 3 in the country we wish to work in, like New Zealand. So first of all, New Zealand will accept you with USMLE, PLAB, AMC. They will accept you. but then you need to do their step 1 and 2 for USMLE. PLAB, I don't know. AMC also, I'm not sure. But then you need to do their exam. It's called NCLEX. That's like step 3 there. And you can work there. They will give you a residency. See, that is what I want in my life. I want to have that freedom to go to different countries to work. Like a lot of Middle Eastern countries will accept USMLE. I know that. New Zealand. There's actually a lot of countries. You guys can look it up. Okay. If that's the answer you were looking for. Okay. Let me go through did you go through the books for each subject? The only book I used was the first aid. Okay. And I used the video resources and I would write on top of the first aid. Any other questions? No, right? So honestly, what I can tell you is, as a teacher, as someone who's teaching, as a student who's learning, the most important thing is solidifying your basics. Okay. If you can't focus on your basics, you will not be able to do any exam properly. That's where they get you actually. They know that your basics are bad or your basics aren't enough, and that's where they will make sure you fall down. As you come to the final years, you are saturated with knowledge about management, about diseases, all of those, you know it. But if you don't know the physiology, if you don't know the pharmacology, the basic pharmacology or the pathology, that's where they get you. Okay. So next, okay, let me just make an announcement. So next, we are trying to find someone for PLAB. We'll see. We did find one based on our scheduling situation. Okay, we actually found one. So we are planning to have it in August. She said she's free on August. So you guys can continue to, like, that'll be the next program basically. Okay. PLAB, and we are actively looking for someone who's done AMC. If you guys know anyone, let us know. For PLAB, we found one. Let me turn it over to Prashant now. Prashant. So guys, if you have any questions, please send me a message. I'm ready to help. Like if you need any advice or resources, just send me a message. Okay. Prashant.
Right. Okay. So thank you very much, Sean. And guys, we are done with the session. Just a few points. We'll be starting our endocrinology module on the 1st of August. We'll be putting the notice out soon. And we'll be having the PLAB session. We are going to invite Dr. Delis. All of you, some of you must be knowing her. Around 19th of August, we'll put the notice. I will be putting the notice, right, in a few weeks. So that's about it. Hope you all got a good insight into step 1 and how to do things, right? If you all have any problems, I'm sure Sean's line is open. You all can drop Sean a WhatsApp message, right? Or drop a message in any of the Medicine 101 groups, no problem. Right? All right, guys, then that's about it for today. Hope the session was good and you all learned something new. Okay, so see you all soon. Bye-bye and good night.